Welcome to the Wednesday Call Live. Now, let's hear it for our host, Adam Katz.
We live, Billy? All righty. Hey, Alliance Nation. Happy Wednesday to you. The Wednesday Call, TWC. We have had a Wednesday Call every Wednesday since we started the company back in 2002. And that's one of the things I always credit Andy Albright with is the consistency of message and the consistency of knowing the right things to do and keeping everything going like that. My name is Adam Katz. Honored to be hosting today's call. So good afternoon on the East Coast. Good morning everywhere else. Glad you could join us for the next little bit. Got three great guests with us today. James Coleman down in Atlanta, Georgia. Harry Cardillo up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Eric Evans down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we're going to be chatting with these guys. We're going to be talking about really the soul, the heart of what we do, which is, what is your why? It's one of the things we've always said is this: if the dream's big enough, the facts don't count. Meaning that if you can have a big enough vision of what you want and what you're willing to go after, you'll figure out how to do it. The problem most people have that we've noticed as we've gone on this Alliance journey is people don't know how to dream. People don't know how to develop their why, and I think a lot of folks don't understand the importance of that why. And another thing, so I just wanted to read out a couple quotes to you as we get into this. Von Goth, or Von Goethe, I'm not sure how you say it, it's German. He said this: "Dream no small dreams, for they have no power to move the hearts of men." Okay, so a small dream is only going to get you so far, but a big dream, as Brian Tracy calls it, a BHAG, B-H-A-G, a big, hairy, audacious goal, will get you where you want to go. It'll move your heart. It'll move your soul. Ben Franklin said most people die at age 25. It just takes their bodies 50 years to catch up. Okay, because we all end up getting stuck in this world, in this rut of mediocrity. We kind of fall into a pattern, and that's the pattern we're just going to live our life with almost by default. We had a guy, good friend of mine, he ended up working he did animal vaccines. Got a job in a plant doing animal vaccines, a lab doing animal vaccines, and he got the job right out of college, and he got the job because it was the first job he could get in the area where he was marrying his wife and where they were going to live. And 18 years later, he was still working there. Not because he loved the job, not because he was rolling in the money, not because he was passionate about it, because it was the path of least resistance. Because that's just where he was, and it was just never a convenient time to make a change. They got married, then they started having kids, then they bought a house, and it was just never a convenient time to take a chance to make a move. And next thing you know, 18 years go by, and you look up, you're 18 years older, you're 18 more years out of shape. Talking to me, not anybody else. And that's 18 years of your life gone with no intentionality about it. And what we've heard is this: the only difference between a rut and a grave is 6 feet. And so it's so easy for us to get into these ruts in life and not realize we're even in a rut because we're just living day by day, just surviving to the weekend, then go party over the weekend, wake up Monday morning, go back and do it again. There's a statistic out there: more people commit suicide on Sunday nights than any other time of the week because they just can't emotionally, mentally deal with the idea of having to go through another week doing what they're doing, working at that job, that just over broke, that jackass of a boss, that they see no vision, they see no hope, they see no opportunity, so they see nothing changing in their life, and they don't have that hope that something could change in their lives. That's what I love so much about the Alliance, is that we offer hope to the hopeless. We offer opportunity to the people who've never had an opportunity before. And I'm just here to tell you, if you guys think that we came into this thing silver spoon in our mouth with the vision and the ideas and the mindset that, hey, we're going to set the world on fire, that's not how most people get started. Most people get started with this company. Most people get started, on a wing and a prayer. It's just like, I don't think it's going to work, but at least I got a shot. All I wanted was a shot, and this thing seems like it can give me a shot. And we're afraid to dream. We're afraid to get a big vision because nobody wants to. We don't want to set ourselves up for that disappointment, for that failure when it doesn't come true. What I can tell you, though, after doing this business so long, working with Andy and Jane Albright, after working with the Alliance machine, the system, the infrastructure, the opportunity, the business model that Andy Albright has given us, what I can tell you is this: anybody can be successful with us. So don't be afraid to dream, because anybody can make those dreams come true. I didn't say everybody would, but anybody can. So it goes back to, what do you want? How do you get it? Sound familiar? It goes back to this coin that Andy Albright has made. What do I want? Simple, clear goals. How do I get it? What's the most valuable task right now that I can be doing? And so, for you guys, and really for the Alliance world, it's being on this call, not because I'm on it, not because we're on it, but because this is the next best thing you're supposed to be doing for your business. Because the power of association has changed more people's lives than anything. Charlie Tremendous Jones said this: where you will be 5 years from now is going to be determined by two things. One is the books you choose to read, and you guys can see some of the books in the background here. Andy Albright, 8 Steps to Success. And the people you choose to hang around. And we have an opportunity coming up next week. I can't believe it's next week already. It seemed like it was so far away, but it's next week already that we have our national boot camp coming up in Burlington, North Carolina. I know tickets are still available. They're going fast, but we can still get you. We can still sneak you in. We can still slide you in. If you're leaning towards wanting to go, whatever obstacle you have holding you back, get with the person who's coaching you. Get with the person that's working with you and say, hey, here's what's holding me back from being able to make that commitment. Can you help me overcome it? And I don't know that each person will be able to overcome everything, but where there's a why, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So if you want to go, if you're leaning towards going, let's have that conversation and figure out what we can do to help you get there. Because here's what I know: somebody's life is going to be changed next week at the National Boot Camp. I don't know who, but somebody is going to make a quality decision, not a quantity decision, but a quality decision, and it's going to change their life. It's going to change the trajectory of their family. It's going to change their financial outlook. It's going to change everything. And what Andy's always taught me is this: people who want to change fast. If they're not changing, it's because they don't want to change. Now, it may take years for you to make the decision to change, but when you finally make that quality decision to change, we've all made that quantity decision. This is every New Year's, right? Every New Year's we make a decision. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get my finances together. I'm going to get my act together. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to quit every year we do that, and it lasts a good 6 minutes. And then, so we made that quantity because every year we're making that decision. But when you make that quality decision, that this is what I'm going to do. As for me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord. As for me and my family, we're going to do the Alliance. Not only are we going to be part of the Alliance, we're going to be a significant somebody in the Alliance. We're going to make a difference. I'm tired of being a wandering generality. I want to be a meaningful specific. I'm tired of living my life of quiet desperation, as Thoreau had says. You know, how most people are living lives of quiet desperation. They know there's more out there. They just don't know how to get a hold of it. And what I'm telling everybody on this call is you have the answer in your hands. You just got to open your eyes to it and accept the fact that this is where you can make a difference. This is where you can change your life, and this is where you can change other people's lives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's been the most gratifying part of working with the Alliance. Yes, don't get me wrong, we're not giving back any of the money. And we're very blessed. God has blessed us dramatically and tremendously. You can see his hand on our business, and we give the credit where it's due. And we've lived a lifestyle the last 20 years that is just crazy. Living in Beth's dream house, traveling the world like we've been able to travel the world, you know, just living life on our terms. It's been crazy. But even more fun than that is watching other people, knowing that you know, even if I was just a doorway for them to be able to do that, seeing other people's lives change is just unbelievable. It's so crazy that we get to do that. But that idea that Benjamin Franklin said, most people die at 25, it takes 50 years for their bodies to catch up because they stop dreaming. And we were talking about in our office earlier this morning, is this, you know, that's the American way. You know, that's just how we're raised in the United States. That's why this new American initiative that we're seeing across the board, that Andy is leading the charge on, where we have those calls, and you know, we're seeing so many people, foreign nationals who have moved to the United States, just take advantage of the opportunity here at the Alliance. And then you look at people who were born and raised here with every opportunity in the world. But then you think about, how were we raised? We were raised to go to school, get a good job, put in your 40, work Monday through Friday, have fun on the weekends, you know, get your 2 weeks off for good behavior, and that's what your life's supposed to look like. And you just, you know, wash, rinse, repeat, and next thing you know, 18 years go by, and you're still working the same job, making the same money, doing the same thing, with no sense of satisfaction, no joy, just existence. And nobody wants to live like that. So I wanted to kind of start the call with this concept, because we were all, you know, I know the background of most of the three guys on this call, and my background. You know, it's most people don't know where we come from. Okay, Andy likes to say it this way: you don't know how you look till you get your picture took. And you know, we all come into business with our background, with the baggage that we have, and we allow that baggage that we're carrying on us to influence how we operate within the business model. There's a great book out there, one of my favorite books, by T. Harv Eker. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And it talks about, we all have these money blueprints deep in our heads that keep us where we are, because they're so deeply ingrained in our subconscious that we make decisions based on things that we grew up with that make no sense whatsoever. But until you're in an environment, and until you have a coach who's willing to challenge you on those thought processes, you just accept them as fact. You just accept, I guess this is how it's supposed to be. You know, you've heard the, you know, generational curses. You know, we're not those kind of people. You know, that's just not who we're supposed to be. You know, we're not college folk. We're blue collar people. Or I know people with a lot of money. That's not who we are, though. You know, we're not supposed to. There are so many people out there who think $100,000 income is doing something. And don't get me wrong, if you've never made $100,000, it's a level you want to attain. But just know there's so much more out there than just settling for. And I don't care where you get into that settle for mentality, whether you settle for at $60,000 a year at your job, or whether you settle for at $120,000 doing sales with the Alliance, or whether you settle for making $350,000, you know, between your business and your overrides and everything, your business team at the Alliance. Just know there's another level. There's another level. Thank you, Andy Albright, for showing us the next level. Thank you, Mike and Noah Levitovich, Andy and Angela Riddle. You know, thank you to the leaders of the Alliance who have stepped out and shown us what lifestyle looks like. And to me, here's what lifestyle is. Lifestyle is having control of your time and your money. How does that sound as a why? Just controlling my time and my money. That's freedom. That's life. We're Emily and I are doing some retirement, doing the estate planning stuff, seminars. We tag teamed on some of that together. And we sit down with some clients, and we had one in the office yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to retire in 7 years. I don't know. I don't necessarily want to, but and it's just like retirement isn't an age. Retirement it's an income." And I know I'll never retire. What would I retire from? I have a blast doing this. Get to travel around the country, meet some of the coolest people ever, change lives, travel when I want to travel, stay home when I want to stay home. I live life on my terms, but it's that combination of time and money. As a school teacher, I taught 7th grade social studies for 10 years. As a school teacher, I had time. I had summers off. I had 10 days around Christmas. You get the week of spring break around Easter most years, and so I had all this time, but I had no money. After 10 years, I was making $32,000 a year, gross. Couldn't do anything. Well, that's no good. Time without money is no good. And then, my brother is a very successful doctor. His wife is a doctor also. They make a lot of money. But for most of their marriage, most of their lives, they never could take a 7-day vacation because one of them was on call. So they had all this money, but no time to enjoy it. Well, that's no better than having time without money. What Andy Albright has shown us is that you can have both of them. BOFUM, both of them, which is both of them. You got to learn the Alliance language. You can have both of them here at the Alliance. Get good at the sales, self-employed sales job, but build a business also. Understand what the opportunities are. I just wanted to give you, I'm just going to give you a snippet of how I grew up, because I did not grow up dreaming. I did not grow up thinking that the world owed me something, which the world doesn't owe you anything. But I did not grow up thinking that the world was something I could conquer. Okay. My dad was an attorney. So when in my very young days, we were very well off, and then stuff happened, life happened, and the financial life of the Katzes went upside down, went into the tank. We had a house foreclosed on, we had cars repossessed, the ice skates were in the back of the station wagon when it got repoed, so that was the end of my hockey career. And from the time I was 9 years old to the time I left for college, at 18, I had lived in 9 different houses. Just going from house to house, rental house, and so it was not the most stable environment that I grew up with. I have great parents, and I give them a lot of credit for keeping us all together and keeping us successful. We all got college degrees. We all have stability in our lives. They have stability in their lives. But growing up, I was seeing a different picture than what I see today. And I went to school on a full ride scholarship, and graduated and got into teaching. And my first year income, I was making $19,900. That was my first year teaching. And I thought that was normal. I mean, I knew that was low pay, but I didn't get into teaching for the pay. I got into it for stability. I got into it because it was a good career. I felt I could make a difference doing what I was doing. But I didn't think that there was more to it than just get a good career and put in your 30, put in your 40 years, and then just get to the end of the race. And I didn't grow up with that mindset of that lifestyle. It wasn't until I met Andy Albright, and he started showing me what a dream could be, and he started showing me how to chase it, that my vision expanded, which allowed me to be willing to make bigger and bigger commitments, bigger and bigger sacrifices, overcome bigger and bigger obstacles, because my dream just kept getting expanded and expanded. So I just really, real quick, don't want to spend a lot of time on how we grew up, but I think it's important for people to hear and understand, how did we grow up? Because I think a lot of people see the people who are more successful in the Alliance, they just think that they have an advantage, that they came into this with an unfair advantage of a mindset, a pedigree, or something like that has allowed them to be successful. We all like to focus on what's holding us back, because we have that excuse mentality drilled into us. It can't be our fault. It's got to be somebody else. It's got to be circumstance. Under the circumstances, I'm doing okay. Well, what you doing under those circumstances? Why don't you get out from under those circumstances and get on top of your circumstances? So, James Coleman, real quick, if you would, just real quick in a snapshot, how did you grow up? I know you were born in Jersey. Kind of what was your situation, and how did you grow up thinking that life was supposed to be for you before you got into the alliance, before you got into the dream machine, as Terry Edwards likes to call his team? James, you are muted.
Can you hear me there, Adam?
Yep, got you loud and clear, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, first and foremost, I want to give thanks to Andy and Jane Albright for building this company to where it is and allow us the opportunity to be a part of their big vision, and so our dreams can fit inside of that. But married, 3 kids, two grandkids. But I tell you, coming up, Adam, no college education for me. Grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 11 brothers and sisters. Going and I would just think about that. 11 brothers and sisters in a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom was not a good look for the team, right? Going to school with holes in the bottom of my sneakers, Mom Duke on welfare. We got to go stand in line to get the government cheese that made the best grilled cheese sandwiches out there. Summertime, the truck pull up with the free lunches. We taking advantage of that. And even being on welfare and getting stamps, Adam, we would still have to go to the corner store and give the man, Mr. Nate, I never forget it, give Mr. Nate a note so he can give us food on credit until my mother got her stamps. And it was a bad situation because my dad made money, but my dad was an architect, but he gave all this money to the dope man. Okay. And so we had no money. And I remember walking in the house one day, Adam, and I was 9 years old and my father was nodding. And I asked my mom, what's wrong with daddy? And she said, he high. And I knew at 9 years old, I never wanted to get high a day in my life. And at 58, I have never did any kind of drugs. But I grew up in an environment where the only people I saw winning was drug dealers. I saw the drug dealers winning. And I thought, hey, that's my way out, right? Otherwise, I'm going to be just like my mom and dad, right? Where I'm going to have all these kids. I'm going to live in a 2-bedroom apartment. And I got to continue for the rest of my life, rob Peter to pay Paul. And so I end up becoming a product of my environment in regards to doing what the drug dealers was doing. And like I said, that took me to a place, like I said the other day, where, hey, look, the only way to get in is to be recommended by a judge. And it wasn't, Adam, until I was doing my 6 years and I made a decision that I was going to make 6 figures legally in corporate America some type of way. And I was sharing that with some of my buddies that I was locked up with. And they call me Hassan. Haas, you're a drug dealer. You're a gangster. You ain't doing it. You got no college education, right? But what I realized is, and I'm going to go back to what Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough wrote the book, What Makes the Great Great, and he rewrote Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's called Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, a degree will get you a job, but common sense will make you a fortune. Right. And I had to really, really take the time to really dissect that. Right. Because when I first read it and heard it, I'm like, so I don't need a degree to go out here and make a ton of money. And so I ended up coming home making $5.75 an hour. But my mindset was, I can do it. Regardless of what anybody else said, I gave myself a goal. I got engraved in reading leadership books to help develop me. And I gave myself a goal at the time, Adam, was that I'm going to make 6 figures in corporate America in 5 years, right? I didn't do it in 5 years. I'm talking a 6-figure salary, not 6 figures with bonuses, a 6-figure salary with 6 years in prison. I went to the school of hard knocks. I didn't go to no university or none of that. I went to the school of hard knocks, right? But I made a decision that I no longer wanted to be a product of my environment. There was something else out there better. Okay. I said to myself, I don't have to be like my mom and my dad. And part of my why to do it, Adam, is because my dad had so much potential and was so gifted, but he wasted all of it. And I did not want to be that person. I did not want my wife to look at me the way I saw my mom look at my dad. Like, you worthless. You just threw everything away as talented as you are. I didn't want that for me, Adam. Okay, so I didn't make the 6 figures in 5 years. I did it in 6 years and 2 months. But here's the thing, Adam, I thought I had arrived. And the reason I thought I had arrived was based on where I came from. I'm running around, I'm driving Mercedes-Benzes, hopping out the car, mink coats, alligator shoes. I thought I had arrived because I had a job, right? And some of us think we have arrived because we have a job. And one day, I went to a meeting in 2006, and the lady at that meeting said, "What if you go to work tomorrow and get told it's your last day? What do you tell your wife? What do you tell your husband? What do you tell your kids? What do you tell the mortgage man? Because guess what? The mortgage man don't want to hear it. The tuition man don't want to hear it. The gas and electric man, they do not want to hear it. They want their money. And that resonated with me. And it was the first time in my life I heard somebody talk about linear income, passive income, and residual income. And I said, I need that in my life. So since 2006, I was on a mission to find the right vehicle, because what I saw, I had never saw in my life. I saw people making $300,000 a month, take home money. I said, nobody I know in corporate America was doing that. The only people I knew that made that kind of money was drug dealers. I'm talking about people making this kind of money legally. And I was fascinated with that. And I said, I'm going to find the right vehicle. So when you hear me talk about lotion, potions, powders, pills on, I did that because they presented a concept to me that allowed me to say, hey, look, when it comes down to dreaming, let me bring my income up to my dreams as opposed to bringing my dreams down to my income. Right. You know, and that's what happened for most people, Adam. They get out here, they go get a job. I know when I was small, we would look in the window and say, hey, that's my car. That's my house and stuff like that, right? But as we get out here in the real world, we shrink our dreams down to our income because nobody's having a conversation with us to reverse that. Take your income up to your dreams. That's what it's about, you know. But that's a little bit right there. We'll piggyback off that. I know you got some other guests on here, but that's the start of it right there, Adam.
Dude, James, I love that. Take your income up to your dreams instead of allowing your income to determine your dreams. That's powerful right there. Harry Cardillo, same thing. Tell us a little bit about, kind of the mindset that you grew up with through no fault of our parents. They were doing the best they could. But they don't know, they didn't know any better either. They didn't have an Andy Albright in their life, expanding their vision and letting them know what possibility thinking was. But just kind of tell us a little bit about where you came from and, how you got into thinking bigger and believing bigger.
Right. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you to Andy and Jane Albright for building this infrastructure for us, for allowing us to dream as big as we do, and for opening our minds up to what's possible for us. Right. So for me, Adam, I was born up in Brooklyn, New York, but I'm a Florida boy, grew up down there. That's where my parents moved me to. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. That was the plan kind of from the beginning. She was going to stay home with us. She's not high school educated or anything like that. So there wasn't a lot of job opportunities for her anyway. And my dad, he's been in the legal field for my entire life, basically pushing papers. And growing up, Adam, we were always right about here, just enough to just barely peek our heads above the water and just kind of breathe a little bit, right? Sometimes you get your chin up a little bit, but then pretty much just come right back down to it. So there really wasn't any vacations. There wasn't any dreams, goals. The goal was to pay the bills, right? That was the goal. Vacations was every once in a while they'd put together some money and send me up to New York to hang out with grandma. That was the vacations. So that's kind of the infrastructure I grew up with. That's who I grew up around, is people who are trading their time for money, right? You want money, you got to go put in the hours, got to go put in the work, right? So naturally, I went out and got a job. And honestly, Adam, I got a job to help my parents out with stuff because that's where we're at in life, right? I had to help pay some bills, all that type of stuff like that. My background. My dad had a stroke back in 2017. I had to step up and help, right? I did wind up getting my 2-year degree, but I don't have 4-year degree, college background, anything like that. So I went out and got a job as a meat cutter. That's where my background started out at. Working at Publix, standing back there in the 48-degree cold, cutting meat all day. I'll tell you what, it's the skinniest I've ever been. Since being in insurance, I've put on about 50 pounds. Yeah. So I guess that was a positive, but it was pretty miserable. Not working the hours I wanted to work, clocking out at 11 o'clock at night, coming home smelling like meat and fish. And I always knew that there was more out there for me, right? I got my real estate license. I started kind of working on that on the side. I had my job, still helping pay the bills, still scraping by, making ends meet. But I knew that there was something out there more, something that I could push my way into. I thought it was real estate at the time, right? During this whole debacle, I meet Emily. And she starts kind of talking to me about insurance. She's kind of nudging me. She's like, "Hey, I'm making good money in insurance. Why don't you come, do insurance instead of real estate? Real estate, it's all this. You got to go. I got leads we can work. We got people to talk to, all stuff like that." And I was like, insurance, isn't that the stuff you get killed over on Law and Order? Isn't that where that's from? That's the only insurance I knew growing up. Somebody's got $1 million policy and that you got for that. But it just wasn't a reality to me. I just didn't understand it. I didn't know anything about it. So naturally, the way that she got me in was just, "Hey, come support me at convention, right? Come and just be with me, just, see how it is, see what it's all about. It's my business. I want you to be a part of it." So I was like, "All right, cool. I'll come to your insurance convention with you. We'll come learn about insurance terms and stuff like that for a while." And to be honest with you, Adam, just getting around the culture and the people and just seeing, how much more it was than just insurance. That's really what changed my mindset for me. Just walking around the convention center and just being like, "Wait a minute, this guy's making 6 figures. This guy's making 6 figures. This guy's making 6 figures." It's like, how are you guys doing this? Right? Is this even possible? You're telling me, and then talking about the passive income side of it, building a team. I was like, it's just mind blowing to me getting around it and having your mind opened up to that kind of stuff. It's not something you're going to get staying home. I'll tell you that much. James talks about being a product of your environment. Hey, if you want to change who you are, get out of your environment. Come to the convention, get around the people who are going to change your mindset and change who you are and open you up to new ideas and new opportunities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Change your environment. They say typically you will have the income, the average, take the 5 people you spend the most time with, take their average income, and that's where your income's going to fall in. So when you were working at Publix, you were probably hanging around mostly Publix people, and you were all making the same. When I was a school teacher, until I met Andy Albright, I was hanging around other school teachers. And it's one of those things you want to see where your life's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Just look at somebody who's been teaching for 10 years, and that's what your life's going to look like. You're going to live in their type house. You're going to drive their kind of car. Your kids are going to be like their kids. Your marriage is going to be like that marriage. And I didn't like what I saw. And then Andy showed me by going to conventions and things like that. And he introduced me to a room where I could be pulled up, where where my income wasn't where everybody else's were. And if I just kept hanging around, being uncomfortable being there, because I didn't feel like I belonged a lot of times, but I got out of my comfort zone and I went anyway. And it grew the vision and it pulled me up. Eric Evans, same thing. Kind of kind of just where were you before you found the Alliance, and what was your thinking about life and what life was going to hand you versus, you've only been with us a short period of time, but I know your mindset, and I mean, your vision's been expanded through the roof.
Yeah, so first of all, shouts out to Andy for his vision and what he created here. I really appreciate that, because it gave me something to jump into and hold on. And thank you, Adam, for believing in me. But first and foremost, growing up, it was 5 kids, 2 parents, and a 3-bedroom house. So it was a lot of us. And then my dad walked out of my life when I was 8. So we really had no structure. We watched my mom struggle. She was in school full time, working 2 jobs, and she always had a dream for us. She just wanted her kids to be successful. I remember getting evicted out of our first house. Mom was only working at 2 gas stations, and she was going to school. No money. We would go to McDonald's, and she would feed us, and she wouldn't eat. So that was all throughout school. My mom was a single parent, and then I graduated high school, and the one thing my mom said was, listen, you're either going to college or the military. Pick one right now. I said, I'm going boots. I hate school. So I went straight in the military fresh out of high school, and thank God I got a pension from them. I did a contract, gave them my knees and my back, and they paid me for that every month for the rest of my life, thank God. But that's the dream for us where I'm from. My brother's retired military, my little brother and my older brother, and my stepdad is who raised us. And that we made it. We've arrived where we are from by doing that. But just being with the company, I always knew it was something more out there. Like, my mom makes $100,000. Now she makes $100,000. When we was growing up, absolutely not. She's a pastor over a church of 500. And I remember growing up, like, she taught me how to dream. My mom taught me how to dream. She would do Bible studies with us every day. And little by little, I watched from a little kid her start teaching us. Then a few women would come, and now they own a church, and it's 500-600 members. So I already knew growing up, plus what the military taught me, that if I just gave a little bit of time and stayed committed, that I could make something happen. And my dream coming in here was $100,000. And I told my parents before I went to the cabin with you guys, I'm like, listen, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to make $2 million so I can pay y'all a salary. 10% of my income is going to go to the church. So when somebody leaves the light on in the bathroom in the church, y'all don't yell at us no more. And they said, all right, we believe in you. Go for it. They were super excited. And so that was my dream coming in. But I didn't realize how small $2 million a year, like that type of dream, is to people in this company. I get around people like James Coleman, and I'm listening to him talking. He's like, listen, guys, $5 million a year is a minimum. And then I get around Andy. I'm like, Andy, listen, I want to make $2 million a year. And it's just like, that's it. I'm like, my God. Okay. So now I'm dreaming bigger. Why can't I get my parents $2 million a year instead of $200,000 a year? That's what my 3 months in the business have done to my mind. And I'm just super excited to see where this thing goes.
So yeah. So none of us came into this with that mindset of we're going to take over the world. We all came into it just hoping to hit the next level, whatever that next level happened to be. So guys, don't beat yourself up if you don't know how to dream. Don't beat yourself up if you came into this with, man, if I could just, we talked to, you got to meet people where they are. So the other thing I would tell you is, as you're building your business team, meet people where they are. If somebody's making 40 grand a year, don't tell them they're going to make $2 million a year with us. They don't believe it. Generally they'll believe about 10, maybe 20% higher than what they're making. So if they're making 40 grand a year, say, hey, what if I could show you to make an extra $10,000 part-time, get you up to 50? What would that do for your life? And so a lot of times for most people, dreaming big starts small, and it's incremental growth, and that's okay. Don't beat your people up if they don't have big dreams yet. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have big dreams yet. What I will tell you, though, is you want to grow, you want to get past that fast, especially for yourself. Because here's what it comes down to. You say you have a why, and if your why is just not to have a car payment anymore, man, if I could just make $622 a month to take care of the car payment, so I don't have to take my car payment out of any other resources, that'd be awesome. Great. Is that why big enough to move you? Okay. Typically, what we have found is this: the size of the dream determines the size of the obstacle that's going to take you out. And so if you have a dream the size of a pea, all it takes is a pea-sized problem, and that'll blow you out of business and chase you back into your job, into your comfort zone, away from the light, away from success, away from opportunity. So the reason we hit dreaming so big, vision, goals, ambition, pick a word you want to use. The reason we know it's so important is because you're going to have obstacles. You're going to have life come against you. Do you have the mental fortitude, the intestinal fortitude, the guts to overcome it and fight back and fight through it? Because so many people don't. They just tuck tail and run, tuck tail and hide. So if you say you got a why, is it enough to set your soul on fire? Is it enough to discipline your calendar so that you will do what you need to do, whether the feeling is there or not? Andy defines, and he didn't make up this quote, but a definition of character is the ability to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Because you're going to have failures in this business. You're going to have policies that don't get issued. We have to deal with these insurance carriers. We love them. They have all the money. But they ain't perfect. You're going to have, stuff's going to happen to you in business. You're going to hire somebody and you think they're going to change your whole business. And they make 6 minutes of phone calls and then realize that they're not cut out for it and they quit. And it's just like, my guy, what happened to my guy? and it's go hire another one. That's what happened to your guy. You didn't hire enough guys. That's what happened to your guy, if you're wondering. So you're going to have those things come against you. That's why you need to not lose enthusiasm. Another definition of character is to continue on with the decision after the emotion of that decision, the environment, the emotion made in that environment has passed. See, like there's going to be a lot of people making big decisions over the weekend, next weekend, at National Boot Camp. 17th through the 19th, Burlington, North Carolina. Sunday afternoon, when people are heading home, they're going to have made some big time decisions. When that emotion of the environment is gone, that's when you're left with your schedule and your calendar and the motivation you have from what you're chasing. Harry, if you would talk a little bit about that, the importance of developing that why to help you discipline your schedule.
Right. And just feeding off what you just said there, Adam, don't let convention be your New Year's Eve party, right? Everybody makes those commitments on New Year's Eve, and then once the first of the year rolls around, there's a lot of gyms making a lot of money with nobody in them by February and March. So don't let convention be your New Year's Eve party. Follow through on what you commit to coming out of the weekend and committing to that to those goals. As far as the why goes, Adam, it's just a matter of dreaming big and understanding what you want out of life in general, right? Just going back to what we were talking about before, for me, I was just a day-to-day grind of I didn't really know what I want. I wasn't dreaming big. I didn't understand what was possible for me, right? So really developing the why is about just figuring out what you want overall, right? Do you want freedom? Do you want to be able to take, incredible vacations? Do you want to be able to, we always talk about reading off the side of the menu, right? Either reading the prices on the right side of the menu or looking at actually what you want on the left side of the menu, right? Do you want your kids to be able to have that mentality, to build a legacy where your kids aren't having to go through the same struggles that we went through, right? To endure those things. And I think that's really the biggest thing about the why, is just figuring out what you want.
How do you use that, though, as fuel for doing the mundane? Because, look, not everything we do in this business is exciting. Making recruiting phone calls isn't the most exciting. I mean, it's a game. You can turn it in. You can make it fun. Sometimes it's fun to just kind of mess with people, asking them questions and things like that. But a lot of times it's just mundane. Making dials to book your appointments. Driving the miles to go see your clients, or if you're doing virtual, just staying on the phone 8 to 10 hours a day. That mundaneness can become overwhelming if you allow it to. So how do you allow, how do you discipline yourself to continue doing that even when you don't feel like it?
Right. And that's where scheduling comes into play, right? We always talk about having an intense schedule and being accountable to your schedule, right? So I know one of the things that we talked with a lot about new agents is, hey, build out your schedule, put every single little thing in there, all of it, right? Hey, you want to hang out with your kids on Sunday? Put that into your schedule. Hey, you have lunch with mama on, Tuesdays, put that into your schedule, right? And then sticking to that schedule and having the people around you in life hold you accountable to that schedule is really a big thing with sticking to your goals and sticking to your why. And even, we talked with an agent out in Dunn, North Carolina, and we said, hey, your 6-year-old son, he wants to go to Disneyland. Tell him, hey, listen, Mama wants, we want to go to Disneyland. Mama's got to do this to get you to Disneyland. This is what my schedule looks like, right? Are you good with that? Are you okay with that, right? And make them understand that you're fighting for them, fighting for your family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. James, it's one of those things where how do you kind of let the why make the decision for you, and you set your calendar up when you're on fire. Andy always talks about his schedule, and he just does the next thing on his schedule, and then he'll look at his schedule and he's like, who the heck scheduled that? And then he's like, oh yeah, I did that. And I know I'm going to have one of those moments. I'm going to Phoenix to do some work with a new agent out there, help with some estate planning stuff, things like that. And Emily and we have seminars on the Monday I get back. I'm actually taking the red eye from Phoenix, getting on a plane at 10 o'clock on Sunday night, and I'm taking the red eye, and then we have the seminars on, and I know I'm going to get off that plane, and I'm going to be like, did I really schedule my life like this? But I was excited when I did it. So James, how do you know you're chasing success and not just spinning your wheels? How do you define what success looks like versus, a lot of times people confuse themselves thinking activity is the same as accomplishment. So how do you determine the difference between those two things, and what drives the initial mission to accomplish that?
I think for me, Adam, it starts with me getting to the point where as though I had to make a commitment, right? A commitment in the sense of what is it that I want to get accomplished, and what does that look like? So for me, commitment is transcending words into action and making time when there is no time, right? So one of the things I do so I don't get activity confused with success is that I keep my head down, and I'm going to look up 90 days from now to see what the results are. But one thing real important is the activity piece has to happen, right? So for me, when it comes down to the activity piece, right, because I know, so for me, I'm this kind of guy where B plus P equals R. Behaviors plus processes equal results. But the first thing I had to do, Adam, was identify what kind of results I wanted to get accomplished. Then I had to ask myself, what processes do the Alliance have that's going to help me get my results? Then I had to go back and say, are my behaviors indicative of the processes and the systems that's in place to get me the results? So one of the things I do is that when I get up and I got whatever my goal, I got 3 goals that I'm going after, right? That encompasses, that fits into my why. And each one of those goals, Adams, I got to write down daily 3 action items, right? And keep it in front of me to say, I got to get these 3 action items accomplished for this goal that I'm going after. Then I got another goal. Here's 3 action items that I got to do. So it keeps me right in front of what it is that I have to do. Regardless of what's going on, I got to get these 3 action items done today, predicated upon what it is I'm trying to get after. And I know that if the continuity is there, right? I'm going to look up and see the results. And this is one of the reasons why you see from coming out of NatCon, and you said it, Adam, about the event is going to impact somebody, right? It's going to change somebody's life. And for my wife and I, that event was NatCon, right? Hearing Stephen Davis and Fitz get up there talking about recruiting and realizing that, hey, if my why is this big, why am I not doing this? Because me doing this is going to make up 80% of what it is I'm trying to get accomplished. So why am I not doing it? And then really honing in on that, right? And just sticking to the commitment. And here's the thing, is it uncomfortable? Yes. Somebody said your comfort zone equals your wealth zone, right? So why would I want to continue to be comfortable, right? Just making the money that I was making, because guess what? The reality was this, Adam. I wasn't impacting nobody else's life really, but mine. Right? So if my team is called the Mad Team, and it's all about making a difference. So whose lives am I making a difference in? You know, all of us are here because somebody wanted to build an organization. Somebody said, hey, I want to get free. What's this war on poverty look like, right? And, you know, I say, hey, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. But it's also up to me to follow the task that I've given myself. It's also up to me to stick to that doggone schedule. So we talk about how do you move when you don't feel like doing it? Because all of us get up sometimes and we don't feel like, to your point, mastering the mundane, doing the same thing over and over. Sometimes we don't feel like it, but we got to understand success is about repetition. Right. So, you know, you pulled out that coin. I carry this everywhere. So when I have those moments, Adam, because I'm human like everybody else, today I put my hand in my pocket and I feel this. Right. And it reminds me of what it is I'm going after. It gets me reinvigorated to get back on track in terms of replacing that thought with a positive thought that's going to create the momentum and have me do what it is that I need to do and not get caught up. And because we all got the ability to change our thoughts just like that, if that's what we choose to do. Right. So for me, that's just what it is. I'm writing stuff down. It's in front of me. And because it's in front of me, I know what I got to do. But more importantly, it's on my calendar. When we was at the cabin, I don't know, I was showing somebody my calendar, right? I don't know if I was talking to Eric or I was talking to Al, but I showed them my calendar and it showed all of the recruiting appointments up there. It shows, hey, my TWC is in my calendar. It shows the product calls in my calendar. It shows the activity calls in my calendar. It shows my team call. So all that's in my calendar. Why? Because I realized I got to be a slave to my calendar. Right? Gone are the days where I'm just trying to keep everything upstairs in my head. Here's what I learned. If it ain't on your calendar, you're not going to do it. And I can't speak for nobody else. I can speak for James Coleman. It wasn't on my calendar. It wasn't getting done. Right? So it's just like, just sticking to that and realizing if you can commit to that, you can get to where you want to go. You just got to be committed to it. You just got to be committed to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, show me your calendar, I'll tell you where your priorities are. And, it's what you say speaks, or what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say. You know, it's the do that defines who you are. It's not the yak. It's not the talk. It's the walk. Does your video match the audio? And a lot of us are really good. We're all really good at audio,
right?
I can get up and I can preach a sermon with the best of them, but can I walk the sermon? It's one of those. Go ahead, James.
I said you're absolutely right about that, Adam. And here's where, for me, I can't speak for nobody else. I can speak for James Coleman, right? And I had to realize, and a lot of people guilty of it, but I'm going to talk about James Coleman today, right? Expression is not execution. Okay, so yeah, we could talk about it. What are we doing? So as you see, when I look at my organization, and we go from averaging 40,000 a month to 135,000 a month in a matter of 6 months, and going from DM to VP, because I wasn't doing this, Adam. I wasn't talking. I was working. I was doing. I was putting in the work, and said, let my work speak for itself. Because for Angie and I, the best way that we can show our gratitude to Andy and Jane is to grow. Right? I don't want to do a whole bunch of this. No, no. I want to execute. I want to keep my head down and work and do what it is I got to do. I want to continue to learn from the leaders that is paving the way, right? And I don't even want to get into any name calling in regards to the leaders that has impacted my life over the past couple of this year. It's crazy. And some of them might not even realize how they have impacted my life in regards to allow me to look at the execution piece a little bit different, through a different lens, right? To help get to where it is we going.
It's yeah, I mean, so much there. There's so much there. Here's what Andy always says. He says, you owe people two things. Because we take, some people are hesitant to build an organization because they don't want to be responsible, or they don't know what to do with people, or things like that. Here's what Andy says. You owe people two things. You owe them an opportunity, which the opportunity with the Alliance is self-evident, or will be if you go to National Boot Camp, if you haven't been to one of our big conferences. And then you owe people an example. Show them taillights. The best thing Andy Albright has always done for me is he's shown me taillights. He showed me what work looked like, and he showed me what success looked like. It was up to me to choose to duplicate or not duplicate to the best of my ability. But I never could use him as an excuse of why I didn't need to do something, because, well, Andy was, that's what you owe people. That's what you owe your team. Eric, just kind of continuing on this theme, you smoked it on the phone yesterday, booking up your calendar over the last 24, 36 hours. I remember not that long ago, you were making phone calls, and you never complain. That's one thing I like about Eric, is he never complains. He asks questions. He asks how to get better, how to do things differently. He's always checking his thought process. But my guess is in your own head, you were complaining a lot about the quality of the leads, and about how drudgery it was, and that these people crazy, and there's no way this is ever going to work. Versus, so go back a couple months on your first set of dials and your thought process on that, versus, the success that you had yesterday, just booking up your calendar. I think you ended up with, how many did you end up with this week?
19 appointments.
19 appointments. I think when we first talked to you and you were first starting to make dials down at Dorothy's office, that if you booked 3, it was just like, oh my gosh, what a hero, what a warrior. So how has that mindset shifted, and how much can you attribute to expanding your vision on what the opportunity really is by going to the cabin, and versus that made the dials that much easier?
When I was first making dials, I was pretty much asking people not to hang up the phone, like listen, please don't hang up on me. And then I started jumping on the dial sessions with ET, and get coaching on exactly what to say, and then you helped me out at a hot spot on exactly what to say, and my closing ratio went from like 2%, honestly, closing one out of 50 calls, and to probably about 70-80% because of you guys' help. So I'm extremely grateful for the coaching, and I'm extremely grateful for y'all working on my mind. And yes, I do complain. I'm not gonna tell you what I complain about, but I do complain to myself when making dials. I don't know if everybody does, but and then going to the cabin and just hearing the work some of these guys are putting in, and seeing James' schedule, and asking people like, if you were to start over from day one, what would you do different? They were just like, the number one thing everybody's saying, I won't be scared. You shouldn't be scared. Just go for it. So I made up in my mind right there that I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to do exactly what my coaches say. If you say 20 appointments a week, I got to do 20 appointments a week, meaning before I go run my first appointment after this call, I still got to book one more appointment for Thursday. And it's just expanded my vision. I'm truly grateful for you guys. I really am.
So we understand the importance of developing a why and how we use the why to fuel what we're doing. How to use the why to get us off of autopilot. Because I think a lot of us fall into that trap of we're just going through the motions unemotionally, which you want to be unemotional making phone calls because you don't want to take every no personally or anything like that. It is a function of the numbers, but you want to pursue your business with a passion, a fire inside of you that can't be extinguished with a bad experience or a bad couple phone calls or anything like that. So the question then becomes, how do we build a why? So many people, they come to this company, and I like to say that we're a company of second chances, because we don't get a ton of people fresh out of school. Most of the people that we get joining our business teams, have had life kick them around a little bit. And so, we give you a second chance at the life of your dreams. But so many people that get to us beat down by life, they don't know how to dream. They don't know how to expand their vision. They're so, they're living here, and they don't know how to think bigger than just getting their head above water, where they can breathe a little bit. And so when they finally do, they think they've arrived. And they miss the forest for the trees. The trees being just get your head above water. Let me get good at the sales side so I can pay my bills this week, pay my bills this month. And they miss the opportunity of, let me build a legacy for my children and my grandchildren. Let me build a business that will provide me the lifestyle that I couldn't even dream of. So what are some things that you've done for yourself, or that you can do for some of the people that you bring on board your business team to help them dream bigger, to expand their vision? Because the reality is this: we had this guy. He would always say it this way: you got to seize it before you can seize it. If you can't see the vision, if you can't speak it out loud, you're never going to have it. So what are some things that you've done for yourself and your family and your business partners as you're growing your team to help expand their vision? Let's give them some practical things they can do to build their why, so that why will get them above the mundane and into the passion. Eric, why don't we start with you on some of the things that you've done or that works to help expand your dream?
Of course, a couple things you should do to expand your dream is, first and foremost, and it's most important, is to read. Like, I read every single day. And, I struggle with that at first, like reading every single day. I might read 4 days and then stop 3. But just from my coaches and getting help, I read every single day. The first thing I heard Andy say when I was 3 days in the business at a hot spot in Atlanta with James was, your net worth is a direct correlation to your net worth. So when I heard him say that, I immediately got Adam's phone number. I immediately got Andy's phone number. I got to make these guys my friend. And I need them to coach me on how to be successful, because where I'm from, we do not have coaches to be successful. I am successful where I'm from. And so I would read every day. I would get close to the people that you see have what you want. And I would ask yourself just questions. Like, I always ask myself, what if my son gets accepted to Harvard and he can't go because I can't afford it? Now he has to go to community college. It's my fault. That's how I make my wife.
And a lot of people will fight harder for fear of loss or for what they don't want than they will for what they do want. Like not wanting to tell your son that he can't go to the school of his choice. That motivates, that it's the don't wants that are a lot of times more positive than the do wants. than the car or the house or the vacation or whatever that happens to be. He brought up reading as a way of expanding your mind and expanding your vision. If you have not read 8 Steps to Success, that should be the first book you read. In fact, I heard Jake and Ray Joseph say this. They read that book once a month, every month till they were making over 6 figures. And until they went agency manager and beyond. And so that is a book that you can read over and over again. Obviously, you have the Millionaire Maker Manual, which is more of a manual, which breaks down in detail everything you need to do. Also, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. More millionaires credit Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. That and the Bible are the 2 books more millionaires give credit to for their success than any other book out there. And within Think and Grow Rich, he talks about definiteness of purpose. And that's the why. That's what's driving you. Harry, what are some things you and Emily have done to expand your thinking, to expand your vision, to keep the passion of growing during those times of frustration in business, to stay in the hunt? What are some things you've done, or what are some things you try to do for the recruits, your business partners on your team, to help them get a bigger vision and see a bigger picture?
Right. For us, I mean, it's honestly, to tag off of what Eric said, it's the books you read, the audios you listen to, and the people who you associate with. Those are really the biggest things.
That'd be steps 3, 4, and 5 of the 8 Steps to Success, by the way. Those who keep score at home.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's really been it for us. And I'll tell you the truth. I am not a natural reader. I got through a lot of high school and some of my college courses with just Spark Notes, pretending I read the books and reading the short summaries online. And, I'm sure the kids nowadays are using ChatGPT and all that stuff, but we had Spark Notes, and we would pretend we read the books and write the book reports and all that stuff like that. I probably read 1 or 2 books all throughout my high school. But how important it is to retraining your mind to think like the people who you want to be is really what I would say. And you can only do that by just constantly putting it back in with the audios, with the books, hanging around people. That's a huge piece of it. Coming to the conventions, attending all meetings. Are you on this call, right? Are you constantly getting, and it's more subconscious than anything else. That's where you pick it up, right? We always say it's more caught than it is taught. And the way that you catch it is by constantly plugging in, constantly associating, and exposing yourself to the principles that are going to make you successful, and to keeping the vision on what you want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. James, same question. What are some tangible things you can give people to do to expand their vision and to grow their mindset so that they truly can take full advantage of the opportunities?
So first and foremost, and I'm going to speak for me. My screensaver on my phone is my picture of my vision board, right? What is it that I want? What can I keep in front of me on a consistent daily basis that reminds me of the sky's the limit in regards to what it is that I can accomplish? One of the other things I do, reading is everything for me. I've always been an avid reader, right? So getting people into the reading, just like they said, but sometimes I ask them questions like, what's your dream car? What's your dream home look like? Have you ever stopped to think about that? And when they give me, they say their dream car is XYZ, my follow-up question is, what color is the interior? Is it cloth? Is it leather? Because one of the things I realized that we have to get real specific in what it is that we want. What does that look like? What color is the house? How many rooms are in the house? What's the square footage of the house? Things of that nature. And for some people, materialistic things does nothing for them, right? So what is, if you had $1 million today, right? What would you do with that money? And in some cases, you're going to hear people talk about some of their dreams about being able to help other people, right? So like, and I use me as an example, like even when I was in the hospital the other day, right, visiting a family friend, and I saw the name in the hospital wing of the person. Like, they say money is not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen you need in order to survive. I don't know nobody that's broke, Adam, that got a wing named after them or was able to donate, right? Philanthropists, they got money, right? And so money allows you to create experiences, right? So if you got that money, what experience can you create for yourself or for somebody else? Because it does not have to be anything materialistic, right? But I come from a world where as though I gotta dream big. Because I came from absolutely nothing. Like, I was having a conversation with Andy at the cabin, and I said, Andy, making $100,000 a month does not do nothing for me. I got to make a minimum of $1 million a month. Minimum of $1 million. Why? I want a George Daniel watch that costs $550,000. I can't get that watch only making $100,000 a month. But I keep it in front of me though, right? Because being able to know what's possible and getting people to understand what's possible for them, and understanding that not just you get people that got money, they get to buy back some of their time, Adam, right? So sometimes it might be, some people might just want to be able to donate their time to the Boys and Girls Club, donate their time to some kind of mentorship program or some kind of missionary program. But in order to do so, you got to take money out of the way of being a problem. So let's get the money out of the way of being a problem and put you in a position to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, however you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it for, as long as you want to do it, right? Money solves a whole lot of things. Right. And then when it comes down to some people coming in, I want to make $100,000. I want to make $200,000. That's great. Let's ask this question. What's the most amount of money that you made in your life in 1 year? And the reason why that question is so important to me, because I understand if you tell me the most you made is 60,000, then you got $60,000 a year work ethic. Let me help you with your work ethic to get you to making $100,000, $200,000, or $300,000, right? Let's put something in front of you that's what you want, regardless of what it is. I don't care if it's being able, if your dream is to retire your wife or your husband from their job, then let's work on that, right? Let's keep that at the forefront, right? And understand stumbling blocks going to happen because they happen to all of us, right? I made $8,000 my first 30 days in the business, Adam. But here's what a lot of people don't know. 2 months later, all of it charged back. All of it charged back 2 months later, Adam. And my wife said, man, I think you need to get a job. No. We're not doing that. We're not getting a job. I got to figure this thing out. I'm doing something wrong because I had already saw people in the alliance making a ton of money, living a lifestyle that I wanted, right? So when I got started in April, right, 2015, June, everything charged back. We had conference in July, right? And they said, James, you got to get the conference, hell or high water. Okay, we getting the conference, hell or high water. And we had the audacity to bring an agent with us, and we had no money. See, having no money was not an excuse of how come I wasn't going. See, I was going because I had to get around the other people that was winning. I had to get around the people that was like me. I had to get around the people that was going to put me in a position for me to even dream even bigger, to see what's possible. So we took that doggone drive, but my wife and I, between us, we had $30 to spend each day for food, and we gave the agent, she had $15. That was going to cover her lunch and her dinner, $15. That's all we had. But to be able to get them, that was our very first conference. You talking about expanding your dream and your vision? You talking about seeing what's possible? You talking about looking at people that are winning at a high level? Unparalleled. You talking about hearing people's stories, like you said, people see take Fitz, people see Fitz here, Would they understand what Fitz started at? They see you here, Adam. Do they understand where you started at? Do they know Adam Katz's story? Do they understand the grit, the grind that it took? Do they understand what your vision, what your dreams were, and how come you and Beth was able to persevere through all the obstacles? Here's what I know. When we make a decision, we're going to get faced with pushback and opposition. We know this, right? But do our dreams allow us to keep pushing forward? Do they allow us to stay the course? But like you said earlier, Adam, if we got small dreams, a small problem going to knock us out the box. Knock us right out the box. And being a brand new agent and getting all that 8,000 charge right back. So I'm writing policies and the insurance company taking the money. But I knew I was in the right place. I knew that, hey, there's people winning at a very high level. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. But we got NBC coming up next week. Look, get your behind the NBC, period. Don't let, hey, I don't have enough money to go. That should be the reason why you should get there. Don't let us, my kids, that's the reason why you should get there. Shack up with somebody. Just get there. 5, 6, 7 people jump in the car. Get there. I promise you, like Adam said, somebody's life is going to get changed. The question is it going to be your life? That's the question. Get around the people that are winning. Get to see firsthand what is possible. Look, talk about dreaming. I remember Stephen Davey saying that him and Hollybee's on vacation and she ordered a car from the iPad while they was on the beach on vacation and had delivered to the house. I'm like, if you really take the time to think about that, how many of us would really like to be in a position to where as though we're on vacation somewhere and we could just order a car and have it delivered by the time we get a brand new car, have it delivered by the time we get. If you are not expanding your vision and your dream and what's possible, then that's on the man in the mirror. That's on the woman in the mirror, because the sky's the limit. We have an opportunity that we're a part of, but there's no cap on what we can do and how much money and how many people we can help. There's no cap to that, Adam. So yeah, when it comes down to dreaming and inspiring people, look, what do you want? Let's have those conversations. What does it look like? What do you see yourself 5 years from now with this? You know, what house you living in, what kind of money you making, how much you got saved in the bank, what kind of car you driving, and more importantly, who have you helped?
Yeah, that's so powerful. Reading the books, the association is huge. It's so crucial. Building a relationship with your growing up line, with your mentor, whoever's coaching you, whoever's living the life that you want to live, that you have access to. I can't tell you how many times Beth and I had to lean on Andy's belief in us when we didn't have enough belief in ourselves. That's a big part of dreaming, is understanding that if somebody like Andy Albright believes in us, who are we to say that we're not worthy? And Andy believes in everybody on this call. And you may be like, well, I never met Andy. You're part of his team. You're part of his family. He believes in you because he knows that God is no respecter of person. This business is no respecter of person. It's measured by want to, by heart. Some specific things I could tell you guys as we're wrapping this thing up is this. There's a magazine out there called the Robb Report, ROBB Report. You can get a subscription for like $65 a year, and it has unbelievable lifestyle stuff in it. Surround yourself with magazines, James talked about a vision board. Make a vision board, make a dream board, cut out some pictures of the car you want, the house you want. Be specific, like he said, because your subconscious is going to go to work on it. So don't put something up there you really don't want, because that's what you're going to end up with anyway. You know, that's how the subconscious mind works. It's deep psychology stuff. The books all talk about it. And so I remember I saw in a Rob report one time, they had an ink pen, you know, not like this, but an ink pen, writing pen, made by Bentley. It was Bentley leather, and it had diamonds on it, and the pen was $98,000. And I'll be honest with you, James, I don't know that there's a world that exists that I would drop $98,000 on a pen. But what it got me thinking was this. They made that pen for somebody. May not be what juices me, but if somebody can buy a $98,000 ink pen and not blink about it, what can I have? See, there's that mindset that you got to have. When we got started in the Alliance, we've had our ups and downs. Life's life is life. We all have life. We've been broke, but we were never broke-minded. See, broke is just a state of your finances today. Broke-minded is a state of thinking that you can never move beyond it. And so what we have at the Alliance, if you will avail yourself to the system, avail yourself to the coaching. Figure out a way to get to Burlington next week, with just a thimbleful of hope and a thimbleful of faith, a thimbleful of boldness to get there. Your mindset your mind will be opened up. You know, one of the things you hear is this: your mind is a lot like a parachute. It only works when it's open. If you're closed-minded to stuff, closed-minded is the same thing as broke-minded. You know, you got to be coachable. You gotta believe there's more for you there. And if you will figure out a way to sacrifice, there's no victory without sacrifice. There's no success without sacrifice. James said, I heard Stephen Davies say, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does buy you a jet ski. And I've never seen anybody not happy on a jet ski. It's one of those things that you just got to get around the people. And this business is more caught than it is taught. You know, the training at Alliance University, Gina Hawks, all the infrastructure, all the resources that you have at your fingertips are massive. And I love talking to new people and talking, interviewing people and sharing our infrastructure and all the support that they have here. Until you get around it and feel it, until you catch it, it's not going to get from here where it makes sense. Everything we do is logical. There's nothing illogical about the system, the levels chart, the way we do business, the leads, the carriers, the portfolios, everything makes sense. But it's got to move from here to here. When it moves from your head to the heart, you can't be stopped. And it's that passion, that motivation, that why that's going to help it move from your head to your heart. Because why is heart driven. What are you really willing to fight for? What are you really willing to sacrifice for? And just understand, to move up, you're going to have to give something up to go to the next level. Let go of that little something. Andy teaches about the spider monkey all the time, where they, this is how they catch spider monkeys. They drill a hole in a tree and they put their favorite berries or nuts or whatever their favorite food is, and it's just a slit in the tree, and it's small enough. Now I can't do it with this ring on, but you just slide your hand in and they grab the berries, but the slit is too narrow for them to pull their fist out. And the spider monkey will just stay there until the hunter comes and bops them on the head. They won't release that little bit to get their freedom. They're so caught up in the little bit that they got, they won't let go to get their freedom. But I promise you this, if you will let go, hang around the team. I love what, James was talking about, that taking his first convention. We call that, some people say fake it till you make it. We say faith it till you make it. Faith it till you make it. He went there on a wing and a prayer, but he had the faith that if he went, that he'll get what he needed to come out of it with. And the bottom line is you have choices. Every day you get to choose what you do. You get to choose what your calendar looks like. You get to choose who you are. You get to define who you are. You get to define what your business looks like. I carry two things with me all the time. Okay. One is I carry the coin. What do I want? How do I get it? Simple, clear goals. What's my most valuable task? And I also carry this little rock with me. It says Psalm 18:2. The Lord is my rock. Because with God and with the alliance system and with this family, you can't lose. But you gotta allow it. You gotta allow yourself to go towards it and to be part of it and to buy into it, and then to allow that to fuel you to do the work necessary to have your dreams come true. Harry Cardillo, Eric Evans, James Coleman, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, that's the best we got. I did the best I could. Hope to do better next time. Andy Albright, Tia Land in the marketing department, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share with the Alliance Nation today. We'll see everybody next week in Burlington at the National Boot Camp. Let's go find one more person to bring with us. Let's go find one more life we can change. Keep your whys, keep dreaming, keep your vision bold. Love you guys. Take care.